Welcome, everybody. This is How to Get Into HBS with a 590. My name is Reuben Advani, and I am a Stratus Prep MBA expert and a Wharton MBA graduate as well. And over the next hour or so, I'm going to be walking you through really the whole process of applying for an MBA program, and more importantly, how to strengthen your application. Even in situations when you as a candidate might find that your GMAT score is less than what you desired, and more importantly, less than what some of the top schools require. So we'll be talking about the GMAT score weight, what it means, how it is often seen as something that's school-specific. In the event that you do have a lower than desired GMAT score, how to overcome that. What are the steps you can take? We'll also emphasize the timeline. Timing is everything in the MBA admissions process, and that process begins immediately. Regardless of when you're thinking about applying, it's never too soon to start preparing. We'll underscore some key takeaways from this presentation. We'll talk about Stratus Prep and its dynamic and cutting-edge methodology, and we'll also talk about an exclusive, time-sensitive partnership offer. So before we dive into it, I first want to thank our collaborators here, Beat the GMAT, for doing a terrific job putting this program together. They're a fantastic organization. And let me now say a few words about my own background. So I'm a business school graduate. I went to the Wharton School many, many years ago. So I went through the process that most of you will endeavor very shortly. I also have an undergraduate degree from Yale University. I've written 2 business books. One is called The Wall Street MBA. It's a crash course in corporate finance. And the other is called Financial Freedom, which is a crash course in personal finance. I speak on business topics all over the world. I'm an entrepreneur. I've built a business. I've sold a business to a private equity firm. And I've also taught at a number of universities. And the reason my background is important is I've seen the ins and outs of the MBA process. I'm affiliated with many MBA programs. I work with Stratus Prep. I understand the process as well as anyone. And more importantly, I've seen the possibilities. Even for folks who sometimes don't fit the standard criteria, there are opportunities to achieve one's goals when it comes to applying to business school, and that's what we're going to talk about. A few words about Stratus Prep. Stratus Prep is the world's leading admissions consulting firm. It was founded in 2006 by a Harvard Business School graduate, and it is consistently ranked amongst the top-tier, fastest-growing education companies on the planet. The Inc. 5000 has listed it in each of the last 2 years as in the top 20 of that prestigious list. So you can well understand what Stratus Prep has done to get to this level, and it certainly underscores the strength of the team behind the company. Stratus Prep has helped hundreds of clients land spots in top-tier schools across the globe. And more importantly, they've also helped people secure financing. As you all know, an MBA program is pricey. And in addition to offering admissions consulting services, Stratus Prep offers financial aid consulting services and has helped many candidates finance most, if not all, of their education. The company's been featured in just about every major business publication. You name it, Stratus has been presented in these top-tier, prestigious publications. Our team has written blog entries and articles and has really established themselves as subject matter experts in the area of MBA admissions. So let's talk about the GMAT. It's a scary concept, but it doesn't have to be. It's one of those hurdles that people dread when it comes to MBA admissions. Frequently when I speak on this topic, people invariably ask me about the GMAT. How bad is it? What do I need to do? What if I'm not a good test taker? Well, this is a hurdle you have to overcome. In just about every case, you do need to take the GMAT. The good news is you do not need a high score, a 780, to gain admissions to a top-tier MBA program. Now, it's obviously desirable to have a high score. It certainly bolsters your case. But if that's just not happening for one reason or the other, it doesn't have to be a deal breaker. There are plenty of other aspects of the application process that can strengthen your candidacy. For example, your application essay weighs heavily into the process of applying to business school. And ultimately, the opportunity to weave a story around your pre-MBA accomplishments and your post-MBA goals can bolster your application. In spite of a low GMAT score, there are numerous instances of people who have surmounted this obstacle and landed spots in top-tier programs. In fact, Stratus Prep had a client who had a 590 on the GMAT. I believe she came from a marketing background, and unfortunately, her score was less than the MBA mean at Harvard Business School. But she was able to weave a very compelling story and do all the right things to strengthen her application. And ultimately, she did land a spot at Harvard Business School. Given a lengthy runway, in other words, giving yourself sufficient time to prepare for the application process, you can certainly do everything possible to not only strengthen your application, but also strengthen your GMAT score. And as a matter of fact, Stratus Prep has the best GMAT tutors on the planet. Each of them has scored in the top 1% of the exam, so they know the exam better than anyone. And each has 2 years of teaching experience at least. That's very important. There are many companies out there that offer GMAT prep services, but, well, for lack of a better word, they're just not the best instructors. They don't necessarily have the teaching experience. So it's really a combination of two things: understanding the GMAT and proving that one has the ability to master it, and that's certainly something our tutors have. But secondly, having the ability to teach these concepts in a very straightforward, user-friendly format. And again, our instructors are trained teachers, and they do this very effectively. So we can help you get there. We can help you maximize your potential on the GMAT. To be competitive, you really need to be within 50 points of the school average. And that is a process of effective studying, pinpointing your weaknesses, and finding a qualified tutor to help you correct those weaknesses. We take a very insightful and a very strategic approach to this process, and we've done it for many, many people over the years. It's no secret. Applying to business school is competitive. But what's interesting about the business school application process is that it's very different from other programs, both graduate programs as well as, of course, undergraduate programs. Some of you might recall when you were applying to an undergraduate program, you were basically pulled into the broader application pool. So you were competing against everybody, and you really needed to stand out amongst everyone else. But when it comes to applying to business school, they tend to compartmentalize you, or in other words, they put you into buckets. Just a few examples are listed here. You're a product manager from Europe. Well, you'll probably be competing against other product managers from Europe. You're a male engineer working for a technology company. You're probably competing against other male engineers at technology companies. So you get the idea. They tend to sort of compartmentalize you and then measure you against your peers within that group. Well, that can be good and it can be bad. Obviously, nobody likes to fall into categories, but the goal here from the admissions committees is to build a diverse class, and that's why they'd like to look for people who fall into these different buckets. And once they've combined or created these buckets, they try to pull the best and the brightest and the people with the most compelling stories. Well, that's a process we understand well, and we seek to help people excel within their bucket. We seek to help them craft a story that's far more compelling than anyone else in the bucket. So we will make sure that you are as competitive as possible with people within your bucket. So how much does the GMAT really weigh? When it comes to applying to business school, what's the deal with the GMAT? This is the million-dollar question. It comes up all the time. I alluded to this just a few minutes ago. Well, the answer is, it depends. It depends on a couple of things. On the one hand, it depends on the bucket. Are you a male engineer? Are you a female product manager? Are you a consultant, an investment banker, etc.? It certainly affects you in certain ways based on your bucket. If you are very quantitative and you've distinguished yourself as a data scientist, well, perhaps a slightly lower GMAT math score would be acceptable. It's not to say that it's an ideal situation, but at least you've demonstrated your quantitative abilities in the work that you do, and perhaps an admissions board member might look at that and say, well, perhaps this individual just had a bad test day. So it's not to say there's any finite score that you have to beat for all schools. It really has to do with who you are and which bucket you fall into. And more importantly, it depends largely on the school. For example, Wharton, my alma mater, places a great deal of emphasis on the GMAT and even more emphasis on the quantitative section of it. Wharton tends to be a fairly quantitative school. They pride themselves on their finance department, and at the same time now, more than ever, they finance themselves on their quantitative marketing department. So they do weigh heavily the quantitative section of the GMAT. HBS and Stanford might look to other areas of the application and weigh them more heavily. Business schools are ultimately looking for a unique and compelling personal story. It's a package. They want to see strengths in many different areas, not just the GMAT. That's not to say the GMAT is insignificant. It's simply to say that even with a slightly less than desirable GMAT, you have a shot at your dream school, provided the other elements are in place. So what can you do to strengthen these other elements? How do you overcome a lower score? Well, it comes back to the story. A compelling story is what will make the difference between acceptance and rejection. And working strategically to craft these pieces and giving yourself enough lead time to strengthen these areas will allow you to produce the best application possible given your profile. For example, perhaps you have a weaker than desired GPA, and perhaps you struggled with organic chemistry, yet you're set on becoming a life sciences business executive. So how do you compensate for this? Well, amongst other things, you could take an online course in the sciences long before producing your application and show competency and even show the ability to excel in this area. It sends a very strong signal to the admissions community. One, it shows them that you're willing to take initiative to correct your deficiencies. And two, you're proving competency in an area that you were otherwise weakened. So going out of your way to prove yourself in these weaker areas will certainly help your application. The best approach to creating that solid story is to really think about who you are and create something that differentiates you from everyone else. It's not to say that you need to start an orphanage in Bangladesh, or you need to build a startup in Silicon Valley and take it public. These are all great accomplishments, and kudos to the people who do that. But some people have a different story and may not have those opportunities or even those interests. You need to take what you have and what you've built and expand on it. And you need to demonstrate a track record of results. So as you're thinking about your profile and as you're endeavoring this process of introspection, which really should occur long before you even start writing your application, think about the results. Point to results at each step along the way. And results can take on many forms. They can even be experiences, growth experiences, highlighting promotions, or instances when you took initiative within your job. Any element of entrepreneurship is highly prized in the application process. And even instances when you may have failed carry some positive weight, showing that you are constantly seeking opportunities for growth, showing that you constantly exhibit initiative, and showing that you have a track record of results will strengthen your story and ultimately strengthen your application. This can come in many areas. It can come in your work life. It can come in community activities, leadership roles, international experience. Again, it comes back to what the admissions committee is looking for, and that is diverse perspectives. They're looking to build a class of people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different perspectives. But what they're looking for is that each individual within this pool has a unique personal story. So it's something to really give some thought to. And as you're approaching the application process, really think about what makes you unique and what might bolster your story. And again, there are plenty of opportunities, given the right amount of time, to correct any deficiencies. So if you find that you're weak on the community front, but you are someone who's very interested in social impact entrepreneurship, well, perhaps getting involved with a community organization that fits with your background and your interests would make sense. And doing so sooner rather than later, even more so, because you're trying to build a credible story, you're trying to come across as genuine. So taking the time to do this well in advance of the application process and the application deadline will only serve to strengthen your credibility. So what do you bring to the school? The concept of fit must play into your story. In other words, your story has to have a component that addresses why you want to go to business school, and even more importantly, why you think you would be a good fit for that particular business school. So you must address why you're interested in an MBA program. We all know that there are many great graduate programs out there. Broadly speaking, there are wonderful academically focused PhD programs, wonderful law programs, wonderful medical programs, and the list goes on and on. But why an MBA? Your story has to address this. You must be clear in terms of how you articulate the desire to obtain an MBA. What do you think that you will bring to the business community, and what will the business community bring to you in terms of achieving your long-term goals? And more importantly, why now? Why are you interested in an MBA now? Why not 5 years from now? Or why not 3 years ago? What is it about this point in your life that makes an MBA so compelling? And finally, and probably most of all, when it comes to defining this reason, you should make it school specific. So for each application, it is very important to address why you're applying to that particular school. If you're applying to Wharton, what is it about Wharton that makes it a compelling fit for what you're trying to do next? Is it their finance program or their marketing program or their entrepreneurship program? If you're applying to Stanford, what is it about the West Coast and Stanford's rich base of alums who've achieved great things in the world of entrepreneurship? These are just a couple of examples that you should think about based on the school you're applying to. And what contributions will you bring to this school? Your unique contributions play heavily into the application. It's a two-way street. It's not just about what the school will do for you. It's also what you will do for the school. What will you do as a student, and most of all, as an alumnus? The story you build must follow a thread that is woven throughout the application. And the application has several key components: essays, the resume, and the recommendation. These are all important. They all weigh heavily on your candidacy along with the GMAT. And this common thread must contain elements of your story. So as you've crafted your reason or your fit, and you've defined your story, which is largely based on who you are and why you want to go to business school, the story must be woven throughout the application. So as you're drafting your essays, really think about the stories that will help underscore your profile. If your goal is to become the leading marketing expert at a multinational corporation, well, think about how that plays into your personal story, and more importantly, how an MBA education will help you achieve that goal. And this is a process. Drafting your essays is not unlike any project you may endeavor in your work life or your personal life. You need to come up with a plan. You need to brainstorm, strategize, outline, write, and edit. Fine-tuning this piece is essential to producing a solid and compelling essay. Your resume. What have you done? Both on the work front as well as in areas peripherally related to your work, other organizations, trade groups, community service, etc. These accomplishments and initiatives must be genuine, and that's why, as I mentioned earlier, if there are weaknesses in your resume, it is imperative that you start to correct them sooner rather than later. Joining a community organization 3 weeks before the business school application deadline is probably not going to help your case, but joining one 2 years prior to your decision to apply to business school will certainly help, or even a year before that. The sooner, the better. And in any initiative, put your heart and soul into it. Granted, many of the things you do between now and when you submit your application will certainly be done in an effort to bolster your application, but at the same time, it really should be something you believe in and something you can excel at. And ultimately, if you can quantify this success, it will further strengthen your application. And finally, the recommendations. Recommendations are very important, and all too often I see people discount the value of the recommendation. I've seen it within my pool of friends many years ago when we were applying. I saw friends who had achieved great successes in their lives as investment bankers or business analysts, and they did very well on the GMAT. They wrote tremendous essays, but when it came to recommendations, they simply turned to the most senior person they knew, the CEO of their company or the most famous professor from their alma mater, and they thought that the high profile of that individual would help ensure their spot in their dream business school. Well, that's not always the case. You really want to choose your recommenders wisely. And you also want to give them ample time. You almost want to work with them. It's to some degree a collaboration. You want to, at the very least, furnish them with key accomplishments throughout your pre-MBA career. And you also want to give them a sense of your story so that what they write about you further underscores your story. Give them examples. Show them that you are the best among your peers, and make sure you choose people who you know will write a strong, well-written recommendation. So when should you start? When is it appropriate to start the process? Well, the answer is right now. It is never too soon to start. The sooner, the better. Starting sooner allows you to get an edge on the competition. It will allow you to fill in any gaps, correct any weaknesses, build your story, find the right people to serve as your advocates, the people who will help you with the process, even secure the right professionals, people like Stratus Prep, who can serve as your advisors and your counselors and help you with the process, which can be very, very labor intensive. Again, planning is key, and the sooner, the better. The sooner you start, the sooner you get an edge on the competition, and the sooner you can authentically enhance your profile. It will also help you strategize in terms of which schools might be the best fit for you. So at Stratus Prep, we have a 3+3+3 rule. And what that means is we advise our candidates, our clients, to apply to 3 target schools, 3 reach schools, and 3 safety schools. So your target schools are the ones that you believe are a good fit given your profile. They rank well, and you have a realistic chance of landing a spot at these schools. And you'd be very happy to go to these schools. So you'll clearly devote some time to these applications and really hope for the best, assume that you have a very compelling chance of landing a spot there. Your reach schools, these are loftier. This is sort of your reach for the stars pool of schools. It's not to say it's impossible, but these are schools that you would absolutely do anything to get into. You dream about this, but you also realize that compared to the other applicants, given their profiles, their test scores, their GPAs, etc., this may indeed be a reach. Not impossible. And as I mentioned earlier, we've had plenty of clients who have landed spots in their reach schools. But this is something you'll need to devote more effort to, and you'll also have to be realistic and know that you may face longer odds here. But again, it's worth a shot. Anything can happen in the MBA process. And finally, your 3 safety schools. These might be good schools, but they sometimes don't generate as much publicity, or they don't generate the same status in terms of the rankings, but you'd be happy to go to these schools, and sometimes there's even compelling financial reasons to go to these schools. So you probably should include these in your mix as well. And you want to craft strategies for each school. No 2 schools are alike. We've alluded to this several times throughout today's discussion. What HBS looks for might be somewhat different than what Stanford looks for, or University of Chicago, or Columbia, or Wharton. So you really want to develop these strategies for each school to find out what they're looking for and how you can best position yourself to cater to their requirements. So this timeline is something that will help you map out your strategy, help you narrow your list of schools, help you craft a profile that fits into the requirements for these schools, and ultimately, it will help you gain an edge on the competition. So here's an interesting statistic. 57% of students apply to graduate school with an admissions consultant. This speaks volumes for why we're all here. The fact that you're all here, I tip my hat to all of you. You take this process seriously, as you should. It's very competitive now more than ever. It's not the way it was 20 or 30 years ago. Years ago when I applied to business school, most people looked at the calendar, waited for the application deadline. About a week prior, they started gathering their information. Many of them even, believe it or not, took the GMAT after they submitted their application and had the scores forwarded directly to the school. Well, those were the old days. It's no longer like that. It's an entirely different world now. And more importantly, more than half of students, according to this survey, state that they work with an admissions consultant to help better position themselves for their business school candidacy. It just makes sense. And at the same time, MBA applicants are busier now than ever. Again, years ago, people often went straight from undergrad into a business program. Now most schools will require at least 4 years of work experience, if not more. And many people come from very high pressure positions in corporate life. And that means that they simply don't have the time to dot their I's and cross their T's, and this is where a team of experts can help. They can help with the legwork, they can help with the strategy, and they can help with the process. Stratus Prep does this, and they do it very well. So keep this in mind. In order to gain an edge on the competition and to make this process seamless, it's really important to consider working with an admissions consultant. Stratus Prep can help you in many areas. As an entire organization, we are really a one-stop shop for the MBA process. Everything from helping you prepare for the GMAT to helping you with your essays to helping you choose the right people to write your recommendations, to help advise you on the logistics, and often to just lend some support in this very challenging process. Let's take a look at the services we offer, and let's also kind of walk you through this roadmap. So the first thing we help you with is the decision to apply. And sometimes that decision is maybe it's not right for me, or maybe the timing isn't right. More often than not, if you're interested and you're on this webinar or you're talking to us, there probably is a very good, very compelling reason to apply. Then we have to look at your competencies in terms of the standardized test, the GMAT, or the GRE. We have to help you figure out a plan for mastering it and achieving your highest possible score. So we have a very sophisticated diagnostic system to help you do just that. And more importantly, we have systems in place to pinpoint your weaknesses. Rather than focus on the entire exam and simply doing the same thing over and over again, which many organizations do, we help you first understand or diagnose your weaknesses, and more importantly, we devote extra effort to correcting those weaknesses on these standardized tests. Next, we look at this whole process of introspection, helping you really dig deep to understand who you are and who you want to be. And that's a big part of the application process. Understanding your accomplishments, understanding your goals, understanding how these goals will sync with a particular school, and how these goals will help you succeed both as a student as well as an alum, is a process of introspection. And it's something we take very seriously, and it's something that I really believe separates us from many of the other organizations out there that offer MBA admissions consulting. And that process leads us to the story. We help you develop this story, the story about who you are and who you will be. And that comes across as we endeavor the next steps. We look at the story and relate it to the schools. We help you decide which are the best schools, which are your target schools, which are your reach schools, and which are your safety schools. We help you polish your profile and resume. And again, the sooner we get started on this process, the better. Because if there are deficiencies, well, the more time we have, the more chance we have of correcting these deficiencies. We can help align you with the right organizations. We can point you in the direction of other academic resources that can potentially supplement some of your academic weaknesses. We'll help you outline your essay. So at this point, we're well on our way to finalizing your story and turning it into essay form. We have a team of essay reviewers and proofreaders that can help you produce your best possible essay. We then help you with the logistics of submission. We'll help train you for the interview process. And believe me, an MBA admissions interview is unlike anything you've ever seen. It's very different from a job interview. Job interviews tend to be very cut and dry, and for the most part, they tend to be very formulaic. That is not the case in the MBA admissions process. Each school has a different format for interviewing, and we have studied these formats. We stay apprised of the changes. If you followed MBA news, you know that a few years ago, Wharton incorporated a different style of group interviews. Well, these are changes that occur periodically, and we're on top of them. And we're there to coach you so that you can adapt your style to the target school. We'll help you with the decision process. So when those decision letters come out, well, hopefully you've been accepted at some of your top choices. We can help you decide on which school is the best fit for you. And finally, we can help you negotiate finances. We can help you seek scholarship money or financial aid. We'll help you negotiate that process. And if you are in sort of that dubious realm of being waitlisted, we can help you with that strategy. Waitlisting is not a deal breaker. There are plenty of people who do get off the wait list, but they have to follow the right steps. We can help you with follow-on submissions. We can help you with updates. And in many cases, this proves successful for people who were waitlisted at their dream school and are willing to go the extra mile, take these extra steps to update the admissions committee about their most recent accomplishments. Again, it's a process. It's not a matter of just sitting around and waiting to hear from them, but rather being proactive, and that's an area where we can help. Stratus Prep's approach is entirely team-based. Yeah, there are many organizations out there that do what we do, but oftentimes it's just being assigned to one person who may have only one area of specialty. Well, we have a team of specialists, each of whom excels in his or her area of specialty. So as an applicant, as our client, you will work with a primary consultant who oversees the process. You will also work with a senior strategist. You will have access to an account manager who will help you with everything from coordinating your application to helping you with logistics. And an area that really distinguishes us from many of the other organizations out there is that we take the writing process very seriously, and that's why you'll have a secondary essay reader and a proofreader to make sure that whatever is submitted is nothing short of perfect. We take this process very seriously. We value the members of our teams, and we make sure that they're the best at what they do. Our consultants are the best of the best. They're graduates of the top MBA programs. We have consultants from Harvard Business School, from Stanford, Wharton, Kellogg, Columbia, Sloan, Tuck, Fuqua, Anderson, and Johnson, just name a few. So we know the standards required by these top-tier business schools because that's where we're from. And we also understand the post-MBA working climate because our consultants have come from management consulting, investment banking, finance, engineering, healthcare, entrepreneurship, education, general management, leadership development, and entertainment. So just about every noteworthy vertical is represented and every top-tier MBA program is represented. And it's important because we've done what many of our clients aspire to do. And we're there to help them with the entire process, given that we understand what the end goal is because we've been there and we've achieved that. Stratus Prep takes this very seriously. That's why our consultants are the best of the best. And you can see here that we've been doing this for a very long time. We have 10 years of experience. We have the best expert consultants in the business. We have a unique proprietary approach to the application process. And most of all, we offer a 4-school guarantee. What does that mean? It means that if you work with us and sign a 4-school commitment, we will work with you to apply to at least 4 schools. And if you do not land a spot at one of those schools, we will work for free the following year. So this is a very compelling offer that most of our clients take seriously. It's basically saying we will get you into that top-tier school, top of your choice. And if we don't, come back to us and we'll craft a new and better plan the next year. And we'll do our best to get you it. Very few organizations offer this guarantee. So what should we take away from this? First of all, recognize that the MBA admissions process is more competitive now than ever. Budget enough time. And how much time is enough? Well, as much time as you possibly have. When should you start? Today. You can never start too soon. The more time you have, the more time you'll have to do your research and craft your plan. And as you're crafting your plan, you should know your target. Who do you want to apply to? What are the right schools for you? Well, this will enable you time to tailor your approach because, as we've discussed, each school has a slightly different approach to the application process. So it's important to tailor your approach to their approach. And it's important to work with seasoned experts. We saw that important statistic. More than half of MBA applicants now work with consultants. Well, you should work with the best consultants. At Stratus Prep, we are the best of the best. We are seasoned. We understand the process. We come from the best schools. We've worked for the best organizations. And we can help you with your approach. We can enhance your odds for success. We can help you leverage your time. And we can help you access our knowledge based on our own experiences, as well as the work we've done with thousands of prior applicants from all over the world. Partner with us on both your test prep and your applications in order to maximize your chances of admissions to your top schools. And lastly, I wanted to mention a very important offer that we're offering for the next couple of weeks. It expires on April 30th. You can take advantage of this for a free consultation with our senior candidate strategists. We'll offer you 30 minutes of our time for a free consultation. We can walk you through the process, answer any of your detailed questions, and hopefully you'll then consider us for your MBA admissions consulting package. And we're also offering a discount on that right now, 15% off savings if you take advantage of that offer by April 30th. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I am now available for questions. So please fire away. I'm here at your disposal. Thank you very much. What is CPG? That stands for Consumer Packaged Goods. Good question. In a specific year, what percentage of total students were admitted at a lower GMAT score, like below 640? That depends on the school. This information is probably published. I don't necessarily have this year's data. Some of my colleagues may, but you'd have to probably be more specific and look at the school because they usually break it down. They have their mean GMAT score, and then they, of course, sometimes detail how many students got in at a lower score and, of course, at a higher score. So, unfortunately, I can't tell you that as it pertains to the broader market. I'm sure somebody on our team could, if set up for the consultation, can give you more specifics based on some of your target schools. Somebody asked about R1, R2, R3. What's the meaning? Well, those are the different rounds. Most schools have at least 2 or 3 rounds. And I'm glad you brought this up because it's very important to apply sooner rather than later, especially if you have weaknesses in your application. If you happen to be someone who has that lower than what's considered the mean GMAT score for a particular school, the sooner you apply, the better. You can stand out based on your other achievements in an earlier round versus a late round. In fact, the joke, Stratus Prep, somebody at Stratus Prep once made a joke about unless you're a Nobel Prize winner or a NASA astronaut, it's pretty tough applying in the 3rd round. You face some steep competition, so the sooner the better. Another interesting question, how do you quantify evidence of success? That's a great question. I get this a lot, and it really depends on what area you're seeking to quantify that evidence. So clearly in the workspace, you've got more defined metrics. If you're working for a company, a for-profit organization, well, clearly talking about your rate of growth on an initiative or even talking about where you started from and where you concluded at, and really looking at the numbers. If you launched a new product, how many of those products was sold over a period of time, and how did you play a role in all of that? That would be great if you were a marketing executive, or you're a finance person. You saved money for the organization. How much money did you save? So in the business world, anytime you can assign a number and quantify your success, that's great. Now, when you go beyond that, if you're talking about community organizations, etc., again, if there's any opportunity to assign a number to your efforts, if you grew membership of an organization, or even more broadly speaking, if you were simply able to launch an idea, turning an idea into a reality goes a long way in the application process. So quantifying your success can take on many forms. Clearly, if there are numbers to offer, that's a nice thing, but sometimes just showing that you took an idea and you made it a reality is a great way to support your successes. Where are you based? Does Stratus consult via video conference if you're not located in the same city? Absolutely. We work through just about every technological medium to address our clients' needs, and we have clients in just about every corner of the world. Any other questions? I think there were a few I might have missed. Let me see if I can pull some of these back up. What is Stratus Prep's experience with executive MBA admissions from top schools? We have a great deal of success and a great deal of experience in this area. So absolutely contact us for the consultation. We can talk to you more about this, but we work with quite a few clients who are looking at executive MBA programs. And now more than ever, there are some really dynamic executive MBA programs. It's becoming a popular option for people who are more advanced in their career, want to maintain their current position, and best of all, in the rare instance that your company is willing to pay for it, even better. Somebody asked a couple minutes ago, is there a high percentage of students which get their MBAs paid by actual companies? Good question. Actually is a nice follow-on to the last question that came up. It's hard to pinpoint an exact number because oftentimes this isn't disclosed publicly, but empirically speaking, you do see quite a few companies that will pay for some or all of their employees' MBAs. Sometimes it comes with certain conditions, one of which is you would have to go back to work for that company post-MBA for a period of time. That's a nice situation to be in because financially speaking, as a candidate and as a student, you're hedged. You can take advantage of a top-tier MBA program, it's paid for, and you can also consider other options post-MBA. And if you find something more compelling that might even be more lucrative, so that you can go work there, and of course you'll have to then pay back your former employer, but sometimes that's the best option. How important is it to visit your target school? More importantly, how do you decipher your target school's culture? When possible, it is good to visit the target school. It's nice to just have your feet on the ground, to sit in on classes, to even meet the faculty. And it will help you get a sense of the school's culture. As I've mentioned several times throughout today's program, no two schools are alike. And it is important to understand where you would fit best in. Sometimes you have that option. You have the choice between several schools, and visiting them and deciding where you best fit is very important to choosing the right school for you. If that's not possible, there are other ways to at least get a sense of the school's culture, one of which is to talk to alums, where we have a rich database of alums. We can help introduce you to alums, and you can even talk to our strategists and our consultants who can decipher for you the differences between these schools. Somebody asked a really interesting question, one that I don't believe I've had before. I understood what are great accomplishments. However, could you give some examples of small accomplishments? You know, that's a very provocative question, and one that's really worth addressing, because there are people that are applying to big name schools, and these are people that you know, by traditional accounts perhaps don't have the same big, quote unquote, big accomplishments. I met many of these people during my time in business school, and I was very impressed by what they did, even though it didn't follow necessarily the traditional pattern. I met somebody who was an automotive assembly line worker who put himself first through community college, then finished up at a four-year college, and landed a spot at Wharton because his story was so unique and so compelling. And by traditional accounts, it wasn't seen as the big accomplishment like winning a Rhodes Scholarship or a high post in the military. But it was a dynamic accomplishment nonetheless, and it was noteworthy. This individual followed a different path, one that was very unique and was extremely successful, both in business school and post-business school. I guess to really sum up an answer to this question, a small accomplishment doesn't necessarily mean it's small or insignificant. It's just not necessarily a traditional accomplishment that many people see in the application process. In essence, it's a way of distinguishing yourself and showing that you took a situation and made it the best situation possible given your background. Somebody asked about negotiating the scholarship. How is it done? Well, sometimes in the event that a client lands a spot at more than one school, we can help advise them on how to go between the two schools to negotiate more scholarship money. It's that simple. It's not unlike negotiating a better job offer. You receive offers from two companies. Well, sometimes you go back to them and say, I'm interested, but I'd like to review the compensation package and see if you could do better. Business schools are not so different in that manner. When they want applications and they recognize there is a need for financial support, sometimes there's some flexibility. It's not always the case, but we will certainly pinpoint for you when that is a possibility and help you maximize those possibilities. Any other questions? Somebody asked about any advice for candidates on the higher end of the age range, 30, 31. That's not really necessarily the higher end. It depends on where you apply. I know at Wharton that is somewhere around the average. There might be other schools where the applicants are a bit younger. Not a lot of advice I can give. You're trying to craft your own unique story, and sometimes having more experience can really lend a lot of support to your story. I knew several people during my time as an MBA student who were much older than me. I sort of fell into the mean. I think I was about the average age, but I had friends who were much older than me, all of whom had great stories, had done many impressive things prior to business school, were approaching mid-career and decided that an MBA would be a great way to take their career to the next level. And I think that's something worth stressing in your application if you believe you are in the higher end of the range for a particular school. Talk about why now. Why is it that you're willing to take on, or rather take off 2 years to pursue an MBA, or take on an MBA while working, and what it means for your career going forward, and also what it means to the school once you finish that program. Any other questions? Got maybe time for one more. Got about a minute left. Does anybody have any other questions? And again, if I did not address all of the questions, I apologize. We have plenty of time to address them through the free consultations. You can see the web link here. Please take advantage of that. One final question: how much weight do schools typically place on your undergraduate school? Depends on the school. Obviously, if you went to a top-tier undergraduate program that shows, it shows your strengths and your accomplishments from even high school. It shows that you were pushing yourself at an early age and were fortunate enough to land a spot at a top-tier undergraduate school. But that's not to say that business schools are only concerned with that. If you look at the student body in any top-tier school, you find people from highly ranked undergraduate schools and even mid-tier undergraduate schools, even schools that aren't ranked. They're looking to build a diverse student body. And most of all, they're looking to see that you have achieved a track record of success in whatever walk of life you've pursued prior to business school. So with that, we will wrap things up. I want to thank you all for your time, and I want to wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully you'll get in touch with my colleagues and we can help you find your path to your business school of choice. Thank you very much.